Welcome to the Warframe Weapon Encyclopedia, where today we're checking out the Galvacord. You can get the blueprint for the Galvacord from the market, and it's definitely one of the more annoying weapons to get, because on top of 40,000 credits in total, you will also need 2 argon crystals, 5 Atmo systems, 3,600 ferrite, and 1,000 circuits. The Galvacord is a Mastery Rank 6 whip that does primarily electricity damage, with the second highest damage type being Slash, which is then followed by Puncture, and finally Impact. It is very slow. It is, at the time of recording of this video, the slowest whip in the game, with an attack speed of 0.75. It also has a mediocre crit at best, with a below average crit multiplier, though it does have very high status. Now, as far as the build goes, this is the one that I think is the best for the Galvacord, mainly because it just makes the weapon feel better at lower levels, which is pretty much the only thing you can do with the weapon. It is not particularly strong, this one. So we're running Primed Pressure Point, just so we have some decent upfront damage, then Berserker Fury and Quickening, because this weapon really needs a ton of attack speed to feel at least alright. Weeping Wounds for scaling status, Drifting Contact for the combo duration, though this can of course be subsidized with either a Dexterity Arcane or even just by using the Naramon Focus School. And to top it all off, we slap on 3 dual snap mods, which in this case combine into Corrosive and Heat. This build is gonna push the weapon up to sort of level 50, maybe 60, but that's where it starts to fall off pretty fast. Now, if for whatever reason you want to push the weapon beyond these kinds of levels, you should instead start to focus on Viral and Slash, which is gonna scale better at higher levels, but it's also gonna make the weapon feel significantly worse at low levels because your hit damage is gonna be much lower. And also, you're not gonna get that much more damage, you're gonna get a little bit more, pushing the weapon maybe 10 levels over what it's doing with this build. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, because you're gonna be trading a build that at least feels alright at low levels for a build that feels pretty mediocre across the entire level bracket the weapon can do. Now, I don't say this very often, but this weapon is unfortunately just miserable. It is the best word to describe it. It is just miserable. It's extremely slow, the base damage is pretty bad, the damage distribution is really bad, it has a low crit with effectively 0 chance of scaling crit effectively, and perhaps the biggest offender of them all, it's a whip. And whips nowadays, unless you can do some shenanigans with Maiming Strike on them, which on this one you can't, are just bad. So the only good thing about this weapon is its status chance. The status chance is nice, and I suppose the range isn't too bad either. But that's it, everything else about the Galvacord is either mediocre or just straight up bad. The only reason you would have to pick this weapon up is if you have an insanely rolled Riven for it, because the Riven disposition is quite high, but even then I would still not recommend it unless you're gonna use it as a stat stick. So yeah, the Galvacord, just terrible in pretty much every way, shape or form. Would not recommend. And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.